on mobility.
It's 250 points lower for the Hong Kong markets.
I think if we have a very hard landing in the U.S., a recession is deep.
The Nifty as well opens with a cut of closer around 80 points odd.
R.C. Bhargav called for rationalizing the tax rate all across automotive segments with a special focus on reducing the regulatory burden on small cars.
In the fractional horsepower motor segment, we are market leaders with a market share of approximately 12%.
200 points lower is what the Nifty is at right now.
A little over 1% of equity changed hands via block deal.
Most important point on the agenda would be to discuss amendments with respect to the buyback regulations that we have currently.
One more central bank getting hawkish, and therefore it has resulted in risk aversion in all financial assets.
I do hope that the worst is behind us in terms of inflation.
Right now, Nifty is around 150 points. A 30 to 40 point recovery is what we've seen there.
Well, make that a 100-point recovery from the lows. 18,200 or so was the low, and we are back above 18,300. You're with us here on a fresh new edition of Closing Bell. I'm Prashant. With me, my colleagues Nigel and Rima, and we'll track markets, of course, over the next 60 minutes or so. So what has changed, of course, is a few things. The intensity of the sell-off in global markets has also pulled back. You look at what's happening in Europe, it's not as bad as what some of the Asian markets were doing. If you looked at the S&P 500 futures a few hours back, those had fallen below yesterday's lows. That's not the case anymore. There is a little bit of recovery which has come through there as well. Although, with the recovery that we've seen in the Nifty, it still leaves a fair bit to be desired. We are back above the lows that we saw in yesterday's session, but by about 50 or 60 points. You need to put more distance between those levels, and there is still a full 60 minutes to go for close. The Bank of Japan, of course, I think is by far the biggest decision for global markets, which I think is continuing to get analyzed, and we'll have some analysis for you here in terms of how this is likely to play out. Big move on the yen against the dollar. It's a almost 3.5% move in one of the most liquid currency crosses which is traded anywhere in the world. That's as big as they come. The yen appreciating big time against the dollar. Nigel, hi. Rima, hi.
Well, hi, good afternoon, guys. As we saw yesterday, it appears that the bulls want to fight at lower levels, and that's precisely what happened today as well. So the low of the day was around 18,203 odd. From there, we've seen a bit of a bounce. And that range of around 18,200, 18,250, you're getting a fight that's coming in there. And I think that's predominantly because even in today's trading session, one of the most active strikes is the 18,250 put. The premium out there is hovering in that vicinity of closer around 50 points. So at the start of the day, it was around 25 to around 30 points. So just keep an eye out on that particular strike. There appears there is some writing out there, and that's why the 18,200 level is holding out. However, a fresh breakout will come only once we get past that 18,400, 18,450 decisively. And I say that because the 18,300 call, the premium is around 80 rupees out there. And there is some writing that we've seen out there. So that'll be a bit of a resistance zone. 18,400, let's see whether or not we can see a bit of a bounce. For the time being, though, the Dow futures have moved into the green. Big recovery is what we have seen. And that's having a bit of a rub-off on our markets as well. But Rima, let's run our viewers through what we have for the next 60 minutes.
Absolutely. Top of mind is Bank of Japan, which shocked the markets by raising the cap on the 10-year bond yield. Yen soared. All Asian equities fell. Stocks in India also under pressure, with metals and realty seeing sharp cuts, while healthcare and banks fare slightly better. Paul Schultz, the founder and editor of Schultz Research, will be joining in to discuss the global backdrop and the outcome of the Bank of Japan meeting and the implications. We'll track the market technicals with Jay Bala of cashthechaos.com. And finally, we'll talk all things stocks with our alpha manager for the day, Amit Gupta of ICICI Securities.
All right, how should you position yourself in the last 60 minutes? Trade-wise, Mitesh is back with us. Mitesh,